I mean, we had to have told you guys, hey, listen, if you can, go quiet.
Oh,
but guess what a breacher wants to do?
Oh, yeah.
And the other thing is your propensity for risk. You know, it seems like, are you serious? You're going to walk in there like quietly? That seems crazy. Let's breach the freaking door and get the advantage. Yeah. And that seems like a logical thing until you realize that it's pretty easy to sneak in those houses. And when you breach the door, now all of a sudden you're giving away your position, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what's interesting about the movie is there's actually two elements out there. You're set up in mutually supporting Overwatch positions. Yeah. And they only show your guys' house. That's the whole movie.
There's actually three elements.
There's three elements.
There's three they talk about in the movie, OP1, OP2, but there is a scene in the movie where the two elements that are moving to us at OP1, they link up.
That's right. That's right. One thing I've been telling people about the movie is that it doesn't give the audience any clues.
No.
There's no clues for the audience. Like a great example of that is there's Anglico.
Yeah.
In the building with you guys that play a pivotal role. Mm-hmm. Anglico played a pivotal role with us. Oh, yeah. Like one of my great friends right now is Dave Burke, who is one of our Anglico guys. And, you know, they did scores of missions with us. There's no way that anybody that's watching that movie that doesn't know like what Jocko Willink knows that that's an Anglico guy. No. And there's no hint. Yeah. You know, a normal movie, they'd say, hey, throw a piece of dialogue in there to explain that those are Anglico Marines. Like, you know, and someone would say, hey, check with the Anglico Marines and see what they say. Hey, Anglico Marine, what's the deal here? Well, here's what's but there's none of that.
No.
They're just like, we're moving forward and there's no clues for the audience. Just like there's no clues about what's the plan. Mm-hmm. Well, no, you're on the mission. There's no clues, and it's a different feeling for watching a movie. And I have it with all my knowledge. Like, oh, I know exactly what they're doing. I freaking know that AO. I know, like, oh, you didn't pop a 10. Like, oh yeah, that. I was looking at some of the scenes and I was like, wait, they might have used pictures of my guys on some of those street corners, because like there's good pictures of Tasman Bridge. I was like, they might have used. It looks exactly like that.
It was exactly like it.
Yeah, it's the same stuff. But the way the movie is done, you don't get those clues as the audience. No. You're just immersed in it, and it's a really powerful thing. You know, they did a great job of the first half hour of the movie is just like sitting on an Overwatch position.
Yeah. How boring, slow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, if they should do this for a long time, and they did.
Yeah.
And the other interesting thing, there's no soundtrack.
Nope.
There's just the noises. And I was reading an interview, I think it was with Ray, and they would, like, when Hollywood makes a movie, a shot is like 1 minute.
Yeah.
They were doing like 12, 15-minute shots because they would capture what the guys were really doing. They're hot. They're uncomfortable. They're itching their head. They're adjusting their gear. Like, that's what a actual Overwatch is like, and they captured it all. They got Elliott sitting on the gun, looking, scanning. Man, you want to talk about getting the blood flowing? Like, I'm sitting there watching this stuff and just like, call to prayer comes. This stuff is just so emblematic of what these operations were like. Call to prayer comes, interpreter comes in. Hey, here's what they're saying. Mm-hmm. That's those call to prayer would be followed by like, hey, it's time to get our jihad on.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Finally end up after this massive suspenseful, and do I need to say spoiler alert? Is that a thing? Because we're about to talk about this whole freaking movie.
No, so. I think the trailer shows it all, I think.
Spoiler alert. So grenade comes in. Elliott gets wounded. Mm-hmm. Now, when Elliott gets wounded, what were those initial wounds?
He just had just some frag in his upper arm, like underneath.
Mm-hmm.
It was nothing. The interesting thing, there's 3 guys in that room, and that frag came in. It wasn't a big room, and it only hurt just Elliott.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes me back to, like, there was a lot of things that we would talk about sitting around the platoon space, or sitting around the hooch there. And Elliott used to say, as a medic, you get hurt, you get shot, you get hit in the street, you better get your ass off the street. He goes, you better start getting, we're not coming to get you. We come get you, we're gonna get shot too, you know? And that wasn't a selfish thing. That was like just a kind of a wise, like, hey, start trying to get out of the street. And then the same thing with the grenade, because, you know, at Full Metal Jacket there at Corregidor, we got mortared every day. And, you know, we would go up on the roof and see where the mortars would hit. And there was always this, they would hit and then it would spray upwards. So Elliott would say, hey, just lay on the ground. If a mortar comes in or grenade, just lay on the ground. Don't jump on top of it. Just lay on the ground and it'll hopefully get around you. And that's what they did. And 3 people in a small room with a grenade, and it only hit Elliott, and it didn't even hit him bad. He was fine. He would have been fine.
That being said, the call gets made like, hey, he might be fine, but we need to make sure let's casevac him.
Yeah. So the plan was he'd been hit, so we needed to get him out of there no matter what.
And obviously now you're fully compromised when they're putting grenades into your building.
The mission was pretty much over anyway. Yep. You know, this was kind of typical, like, hey, it's time to just go ahead and call it anyway. We've done what we need to do. And, you know, because we always got shot off target. By the end of the Overwatch, it was always like, okay, we're going to leave, you know, we'll extract hot, you know, and we'll get out of there. So this was time to get him out of there. He'd been hurt, no reason to keep him there. So the plan was call in a section of Bradleys, get him in a Bradley, get him out of there, link up all of our units, call in more Bradleys and get out of there, or leave on foot, because we patrolled in on foot. We were just down the street from Eagle's Nest.
That's another crazy thing is like you're probably 300, 400 meters away from like full friendly forces. I mean, Eagle's Nest was a fully, you know. Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, it was just right down the street.
Freaking what a wild scene to be in.
Yeah.
So that was the plan. We're going to get him out of here, and then we'll either
consolidate our troops,
out.
Either foot patrol or consolidate the troops. Because we knew at that point it was a consolidated or a coordinated attack, because they had just contacted Alpha Platoon, which was over at Mark Lee, and they pulled our air over to support them. So we could only suspect that they knew what they were doing, so pull our air so they could get on our roof and get a grenade through a loophole.
They were good.
They were. And, you know, I think that's something that we, back to your after actions, you know, up until that point, you know, we like to call them booger eaters. And I think you downplay your enemy a lot, especially going, you know, through the whole pipeline of buds. And, you know, instructors are always talking about how, you know, the enemy's stupid or whatever. They're not. No. And if you underestimate them, you will have a bad day.
I would tell guys they did everything that we did, meaning they had comms. They didn't have cell phones, but they had radios.
Yeah.
They would call for reinforcements. You could watch reinforcements come in. They had casevac. They would take guys that were wounded and bring them up to the Ramadi General Hospital before it was secured by the Marines. So and they did supporting arms.
Yeah.
And coordinated arms. So they'd start an attack with machine gun fire, get the heads down, then RPGs to get the heads even further down, and then in would come mortars, and the final thing would be a vehicle-borne IED. Yep. That's what they were doing. That is advanced combined arms operations by the enemy. And this is a classic case, like what you just said. They do an attack somewhere else, get air support pulled off, and then now they can get to rooftops. They can maneuver on your element. So that's a lot of coordination that has to happen. Yeah. You guys recognize what was happening. It's like, all right, we're calling it. And there's no right answer. It was always, you know, okay, do we stay here? Because we don't want to leave in the daytime. Because we generally speaking didn't want to leave an Overwatch during the daytime. Right. But at a certain point, like this is no longer, or this won't be a defendable position much longer. Let's get out of here. And it's always, it's a decision. Yep. And there's no right answer, and sometimes you're going to be right, sometimes you're going to be wrong. That's the way it is. Yep. Same thing with being on a rooftop. There's another debate we would have. You can put guys on the rooftop, they're exposed to grenades. If you put them on the top floor inside the building, well, you're blowing loopholes, but you still don't have quite the same amount of angles that you can see, so there's more threat. So it was a constant game of okay, what risk do we want to take? Yep. Do we want to take the risk of putting guys on the rooftop, or do we want to take the risk of putting guys one level down where now we don't have the full visibility?
Yeah. And that's what we had to calculate that night, is because we typically were on the rooftops, but this time in Papa 10, that's where, you know, Mikey got a grenade thrown up on the roof, so we're like, hey, let's go the top story below the roof, and we definitely lost a lot of situational awareness by that. And and then those roofs were really close together,
Yep.
so they were able to just kind of step roof to roof, and we couldn't see them without our air support.
So the decision gets made. Bradleys are coming, and by the way, this is something I always point out, and I've heard Ray talking about it. Of course, again, there's no clues. You don't get these clues in the movie. It doesn't spell everything out for you. When we would call the Army or the Marine Corps for a CASEVAC or for fire support, they would risk their lives to come and give that to us. Those roads that they were coming down, the 11 AD lost 9 Abrams main battle tanks and 15 Bradley fighting vehicles while we were there. Mm-hmm. So when these guys were jumping in their vehicles to come and rescue us, it was at great peril and risk to themselves, their vehicles, their forces. But they did it over and over and over again, and they did it here.
Yeah, without hesitation.
Yep, no hesitation ever. Yep. It was just just awesome that these guys would. And sometimes you're calling a CASEVAC from some company or element that you never met before. You haven't worked with them before. Over time, you get to know them, but they don't care. They don't care if they know you or not. You're an American. They're going to come and do everything they can to help you.